Hi Ashdin, thank you so much for joining us on BW Healthcare World and being with us on the Festival of Wellbeing.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Ashdin, you've been focusing on habits. What are habits?
So, the way to think about habits is, and this is my definition, so this is how I have discovered habits across working with so many people. Habits are your conscious and subconscious actions or thoughts that are repeated at a set frequency. Now, very often we only think about habits as subconscious.
Correct.
But not everything that we do habitually is subconscious. We can't subconsciously go to the gym, right? We'll drop the weights on our head.
Right.
It'll be a disaster. And the same way we think about habits as actions, brushing our teeth, tying our shoelaces. But our thoughts are also habits. And we
Right.
need to realize this fundamental issue that our thoughts are habits. If we keep thinking we are not good enough, it plays a role in us. It becomes a habit, and our life actually becomes like that. The final thing is has to be repeated at a set frequency. So if you do a crossword once a week, it's not considered a habit.
This is interesting, and when I think of life and people, their happiness quotient, joyfulness, fulfillment in life, you realize that everybody is working towards something that has been there in their head. Some goal, some vision that is there, which has not been defined on paper.
Correct.
And they are working hard, they are struggling, they are overcoming their struggles, and the Maslow need hierarchy works. And then you realize 50 years have gone by, I've made my money, I have a great family, my son is studying in a foreign university, daughter is married to the best man that I could find, but I'm not happy. And that is when they start working towards spirituality, mindfulness, volunteering in various institutions, etc., seeking happiness. If habits are subconscious and conscious things that you do regularly, which are a part of your life, is there a way that we can create, and you also said that these are thoughts, is there a way that we could include mindfulness as a part of how we think and create it as a integral part of who we are, so that the journey to the top of the Maslow's need hierarchy is not a painful one. There's happiness at every phase of your life in everything that you're doing. Is there a way that we can do this for our children?
Lovely, beautiful. In fact, what you described is very often called the midlife crisis. And the midlife crisis takes place for a very interesting reason. It takes place for a reason when you suddenly realize that you've not been living your own life. Up till this point, you've been doing what everybody else told you to do, or you thought everybody else wanted you to do. What your parents wanted you to do, what your friends wanted you to do, what society told you that this is the right way of being. And then when you get to this point when you're saying, but I've done everything for everybody else, why am I not happy?
Right.
That is when that aha moment happens for us. So what's very interesting about habits is that most of our habits are unconsciously taken from our parents, from our friends, and from society, from what we see on TV.
Correct.
Dating and all is what we see from TV. Friends suddenly taught us how to date. Till then we didn't know all these things. So it's so interesting to realize that we've been living somebody else's life all this while.
Right.
Our aha moment and our spiritual journey starts when we say, okay, chalo, let me figure out how I can start living a life for myself. Very often it starts with a physical journey because you can see yourself.
Correct.
So we'll start off by going for a marathon, going to the gym, doing something and seeing a physical transformation. Then you do the mental transformation because now that is the thing that you can feel. External ho gaya, then we think internal is mental. Once we do all these, then we realize, acha, but there is still something that I want that I'm not getting, which is when we approach the spiritual aspect of it. So one of the things we can do is early on in life become conscious about what it is that we want versus what our parents wanted. Break away from that, understand who we are, and start this process earlier instead of later.
But you know what? Children are always wanting to do that. I have my son who comes in and tells me that, listen, Baba, this is your thought, but I think differently. And we as parents go and tell them that, listen, you're not old enough to know what is good for you and what is not good for you. I'm going to guide you. We don't even say that I'm telling you. See, we say that, I'm going to guide you. And in the garb of guidance, in the guise of guidance
And love, in the
and
guise of love.
and rightful intent, we push them to do things which otherwise they are not happy doing. So what is it that the parents need to do or need to understand? Do we not get carried away with our wanting to guide them, or should we let them be?
Lovely. So the first thing to realize as a parent is that you don't own your children. Your children are not mini versions of you. Your children have come for their own life journey, for their own journey through it. As a parent, what is your one duty? Your one duty, and actually the word duty is a bad word. What is your one job? What is your one role? Your one role is to give that child as many varieties of experiences as possible, so it can use its intuitive sense to decide what is correct for it at that point of time. Now, of course, children will always go for sugar, right? Because sugar tricks our brain.
Correct.
We know that this is probably not good for the child. Doesn't mean that you go and have sugar all the time. So you realize what are the things that you're definitely going to start controlling, because something that's hijacking the child's mind, sugar, screens, etc., is anyway something that is going to be harmful for the child.
Correct.
But all the other aspects, try and make sure that you're not chapeauing your desires onto the child, your old unfulfilled goals onto the child.
Right.
I've always wanted to play cricket, but this kid might be a fantastic savant in music. And is stuck now playing cricket and is hearing tapak, tapak, tapak and turning that into music. You never know what this child is going to be up to.
Right.
So it's so beautiful. Give your child as many opportunities. That is what your role is. And that obviously in the safety of knowing where the line lies.
So Ashdin, my last question to you before I let you go is, when you talk about habits, we always put them into two buckets. Good habits, bad habits. This is the right thing to do, this is not the right thing to do. And many a times we tell people that, listen, I'm not saying I'm right, but I think you should be doing this. So in other words, we're actually pushing them to do
Correct.
that we think it is the right thing to do. Is there a way that you can help our audience understand that how can we live a life without being judgmental?
Lovely. So it's very interesting because your question had three aspects to it. So the first one is the using of the words should and must. Every time someone uses the word should or must, they are trying to manipulate you by using guilt. Right? If you should do this, otherwise you're a bad person. You should do this, you must do this. There is no should or must. Why should somebody use guilt to manipulate you?
Right.
We're so used to it with the way that we were brought up with our parents and our teachers, that we use should all the time without thinking. Right? So should and must should be things that would be out of your lexicon. The second aspect of this is, who am I to know what is actually correct for you? So the habit to ask yourself every time you catch yourself judging others, Arey, look at this person. Like right now you're going to go and do a talk on vegetable oils.
Yes.
Right? I know vegetable oils are horrible for the body. But who am I to judge a restaurant for using vegetable oils? Bichara, if they didn't use vegetable oils, they wouldn't be in business.
Yes.
They might not be able to compete. So everything has a reason. Who am I to judge that person? I can choose not to eat there. I can choose to say, mera butter mein banana, isme nahi banana. But the thing is that the judgment aspect you remove, saying that who am I to know better? That's the way to look at it. And the final part of that question is, there is no such thing as good and bad habits. It's a lie.
It's a habit.
There are either habits taking you to your goal or taking you away from your goal.
Right.
Now, if you are into fitness and you start smoking, smoking is taking you away from that goal. But if you just joined a new business and your new company and your boss is a smoker, and the only way you can go ahead is if you're smoking with the boss, maybe it's a habit that you need to do at that point of time. Who knows? So that is the way to think about habits. They're either moving you towards your goal or moving you away. That's how to think about it.
Ashdin, thank you so much for taking our time to speak with us at BW Wellbeing World.
My pleasure.
And such a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.